Ex-wife goes missing after a heated argument with ex-husband. Where is she now, and what happened next? Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to our main characters. Emily Harris, a 32-year-old woman with an easy smile and a quick wit, had always been a person who faced life head-on. A former high school teacher, she had a passion for reading and had an affinity for helping her students navigate both academics and personal challenges. Jason Harris, her ex-husband, was 34. Tall and well-built, he had a reserved nature, one that wasn't often given to displays of emotion. He worked in real estate, a job that kept him on his toes with long hours and unpredictable situations. Emily and Jason had been married for 5 years, and though they shared many good memories, their relationship had gradually deteriorated. Arguments over small things became more frequent, and the love that once seemed unbreakable started to fade. They eventually parted ways, agreeing to divorce amicably. But it wasn't long before their paths crossed again, after a chance meeting at a mutual friend's gathering. The tension between them was palpable, but it wasn't until a fateful argument that everything began to spiral out of control. On a quiet evening, just a week after their meeting, Emily and Jason had a heated conversation. What started as a discussion about their past quickly turned into something more explosive. Words were exchanged, accusations were thrown, and old wounds were reopened. Emily stormed out of Jason's apartment, her emotions running high, leaving Jason standing there, stunned and conflicted. It was the last time anyone saw her. Jason immediately began calling her, sending messages, but there was no response. Days passed, and worry began to set in. He contacted friends, family, and even filed a missing person report with the police. But no one could track her down. Emily had vanished, leaving no trace behind. No one knew where she was or what had happened in the moments after she left that night. What could have possibly led her to disappear without a word? Was it the argument, or was there something deeper at play? Jason found himself caught in a whirlwind of uncertainty and guilt. He knew that their relationship had been rocky, but he never imagined that one heated argument would lead to such an outcome. As the days turned into weeks, the mystery deepened. People in Emily's life began to ask questions, and the search for answers had only just begun. As the days went by, Jason's worry grew into a constant presence in his life. He couldn't shake the image of Emily storming out of his apartment, her face flushed with frustration. He replayed that night over and over in his mind, wondering if there was something he had missed, some small clue that could explain where she had gone. Every call he made, every message he sent, went unanswered. The silence was deafening, and the uncertainty gnawed at him. The police, after initially treating the case as a routine missing persons report, had begun to look at things more seriously. But despite their efforts, there were no leads. Emily had simply vanished. Jason couldn't understand it. They had fought before, yes, but never like that. Never to the point where she would just disappear. Her family was just as baffled. They had spoken to her the day before, and everything seemed normal. There were no signs that anything was wrong. No indication that Emily was planning to leave or had anything on her mind that would make her run off. Jason's frustration grew. He began to take matters into his own hands, reaching out to Emily's friends, trying to trace her steps. But the more he tried, the more the mystery deepened. Some people claimed to have seen her after the argument, but their stories didn't line up. One person swore they saw Emily walking down a street 2 days after she left Jason's apartment, but no one else could confirm it. Another friend mentioned receiving a strange text from Emily, but it seemed out of character and was quickly deleted. Jason couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong, but he wasn't sure what it was. Meanwhile, Emily's mother, Diane, had begun to panic. She wasn't one to jump to conclusions, but the fact that her daughter had been silent for This long was unusual. Emily had always kept in touch, even after the divorce. Diane started calling everyone she could think of, friends, neighbors, even old acquaintances from Emily's past. But nothing turned up. No one had heard from her. No one knew where she was. The police, while continuing their investigation, were starting to focus on the possibility that Emily had willingly disappeared. But Jason couldn't accept that. He knew Emily, or at least he thought he did. She wouldn't just leave like that. Something had to have happened, something that made her go off the radar. The search continued, but the trail was growing cold. And as the days turned into weeks, the question that haunted Jason remained: where was Emily? And what had happened to her after that last heated argument? Weeks passed, and the police were beginning to lose hope. The investigation had hit a standstill, and the lack of new leads was starting to take a toll on everyone involved. Jason, however, refused to give up. He couldn't. Emily had been a part of his life for so long, and even though their marriage had ended, there was no way he could believe she had just disappeared without reason. There had to be something he was missing. He spent countless hours revisiting the places Emily had frequented, retracing the steps she had taken before the argument. He even went back to the small coffee shop where they had met for the first time years ago, hoping for some sort of sign or clue that might point him in the right direction. But there was nothing. Emily was still gone, and no one seemed to have any answers. Jason's frustration turned into obsession. Every phone call he made, every conversation he had, seemed to lead nowhere. But then, something unusual happened. Jason received an unexpected phone call late one night. It was from a woman who claimed to have seen Emily in a nearby town, several hours away from where she had last been seen. The woman, who wished to remain anonymous, said that she had noticed Emily walking down a street looking disoriented and lost. The woman had tried to approach her but was too scared to do so. Emily had seemed out of it, like she was in some kind of daze, and the woman had left her alone. Jason immediately drove to the town to check it out. He didn't care that it was late. He needed to find her. When he arrived, he spoke to the local authorities, who seemed to have heard nothing about Emily's disappearance. However, the description the woman had given matched the one Jason had of Emily: disheveled hair, a long coat, and a tired expression. The police, while initially skeptical, agreed to take a look at the area. They scoured the streets, looking for any signs of Emily. But once again, they found nothing. As Jason walked the streets alone, the weight of the situation began to settle in. Emily wasn't just missing, she was unreachable. Something was keeping her away, something that was beyond anyone's control. Was she hiding? Was she afraid to come forward? Or was there something else at play here that no one understood? Jason had no answers, only more questions. And the more he searched, the more he realized that the deeper he dug, the more elusive Emily became. The search had now become not just about finding her, but about understanding what had led to her disappearance in the first place. Was there something hidden in their past that had caused Emily to flee? Or had the argument been the final straw, pushing her to make a decision she never had before? Jason wasn't sure. All he knew was that his search was far from over. Jason had exhausted all possible leads. Despite his relentless search, there were still no answers, and each passing day made him question whether he would ever find Emily. The local authorities had stopped their active search, and it felt like everyone had started to move on with their lives, while Jason was stuck in a never-ending loop of unanswered questions. His nights were restless, and his days were filled with frustration. He tried to go back to his normal routine, but it was impossible. Every moment was consumed by the thought of Emily. What had happened to her? Was she okay? Why wouldn't she reach out? There was a deep emptiness in Jason's heart, an aching void that refused to be filled. As weeks stretched into months, hope began to fade. But just when it seemed like all was lost, something unexpected happened. One afternoon, Jason received a phone call from a number he didn't recognize. He hesitated for a moment before answering, unsure if he was ready for what might come. "Hello?" he said, his voice shaky with anticipation. Is this Jason Harris? The voice on the other end was calm, almost soothing. Yes, this is him. Who's this? The voice paused for a moment before speaking again, its tone serious. I know where your ex-wife is. Jason's heart skipped a beat. What? Where is she? Is she okay? The voice didn't immediately respond, leaving Jason in a state of suspense. Finally, the person spoke again. She's not far from you. But she's in trouble. Jason's mind raced. What did that mean? Was Emily in danger? Why hadn't she called him? Why hadn't she told anyone where she was? Please, Jason said, almost pleading. Where is she? The voice on the other end didn't give a direct answer. Meet me at the park on Maple Street. I'll tell you everything, but you have to come alone. The call ended abruptly, leaving Jason with more questions than answers. His mind spun with possibilities. Was this a prank? Or was this the breakthrough he had been waiting for? Without hesitation, Jason grabbed his jacket and rushed out the door. The drive to Maple Street felt like an eternity, the minutes dragging by as his mind raced with thoughts of Emily. What kind of trouble was she in? What had happened to her in the time since she disappeared? As he pulled into the parking lot, Jason's heart pounded in his chest. He stepped out of his car, scanning the park for any sign of the mysterious caller. He waited, every second feeling like an hour. And then, he saw a figure approaching in the distance. It was a woman, but it wasn't Emily. The figure walked towards him slowly, a manila envelope in hand. Jason? She asked quietly, her voice barely audible over the rustling of the leaves. Jason nodded, his stomach twisting with anxiety. Who are you? What do you know about Emily? The woman handed him the envelope, her eyes full of uncertainty. Everything, she said simply. But you're not going to like it. Jason's hands shook as he opened the envelope, revealing a series of photos that would change everything. The truth was about to be uncovered, and Jason was not prepared for what he was about to learn. Jason's hands trembled as he carefully sifted through the photographs in the manila envelope. His mind raced, struggling to comprehend what he was seeing. The first few photos appeared to be random images of Emily, some taken from a distance, some closer, but all from various times in the past few months. His heart pounded faster with each new image. But then, he saw something that made his stomach drop. There was a photo of Emily, standing in an unfamiliar parking lot, her face pale and distant, as if she was waiting for someone. Jason felt a chill run down his spine. The picture was dated just a few days before her disappearance. It was the first concrete clue he had that indicated Emily had been somewhere she hadn't told anyone about. The next photo was even more unsettling. It showed Emily entering a building, one that Jason didn't recognize. The building appeared to be old, with peeling paint and broken windows. It wasn't the kind of place anyone would want to be, let alone someone like Emily, who had always been careful about her safety. Jason felt a surge of panic. Why was she there? Who was she meeting? He turned the page, his breath caught in his throat as he saw the next series of photos. Emily was in a car with a man. The man's face was obscured, but the photo was clear enough to see that Emily seemed calm, almost too calm, as if she knew the person. Jason felt his stomach churn. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. Why hadn't Emily told him about this? Who was this man, and why was she meeting with him in secret? The last photo was the most shocking of all. It was a close-up of Emily's hand, and there, on her finger, was a ring. Not just any ring, but an engagement ring. Jason's heart stopped. What was going on? Emily had been missing for weeks, and now he was learning that she might have been involved with someone else all along. His mind raced, trying to put the pieces together. The woman who had given him the envelope watched him quietly, her face unreadable. She had said he wouldn't like the truth, and now Jason understood why. He looked up at her, his voice tight with disbelief. Who is this man? And why didn't she tell me about any of this? The woman didn't respond immediately. She seemed to be choosing her words carefully. I don't know who he is, but I can tell you this much, Emily was scared. She was trying to get away from someone. She didn't want to involve you, Jason, because she knew you would worry. She didn't want to put you in danger. Jason's mind was spinning. This was the last thing he had expected. Emily had always been independent, strong, and capable. The thought that she had been hiding something so important from him, something that had made her disappear, was almost too much to process. He glanced down at the photos again, trying to make sense of it all. There had to be more to the story, more answers hidden within these images. But what were they? Jason felt the weight of the mystery pressing down on him, the realization that Emily's disappearance was far more complicated than he had ever imagined. The woman handed him one last piece of paper, a note that had been folded inside the envelope. Jason opened it carefully, his fingers trembling. The note was short, but it contained one final clue. Meet me at the abandoned warehouse on Elm Street at midnight. It's the only way to end this. Jason's heart pounded in his chest as the weight of the situation settled in. He had no idea who this mysterious person was, or why they were involved in Emily's disappearance, but one thing was certain, he was about to uncover the truth. And nothing could prepare him for what he would find at that warehouse. Jason's heart raced as he stood outside the abandoned warehouse on Elm Street, the moonlight casting long shadows across the cracked concrete. It was nearly midnight, and the silence in the air was almost suffocating. The only sound was the soft rustling of leaves in the wind. He glanced at his watch, just a few minutes to go before the appointed time. The weight of the envelope in his pocket seemed to press against him, a constant reminder of the mysterious message that had led him here. His thoughts were a whirlwind. Who had sent him the photos? Who was the mysterious figure behind the message? And most importantly, where was Emily? The note had said this was the only way to end it, but Jason wasn't sure what it referred to. Was he walking into a trap? Or was this the breakthrough he had been hoping for? He had no answers, only questions. His mind flashed back to the photos, the images of Emily meeting a man he didn't know, the ring on her finger, and the fear that had gripped her. He couldn't understand why she hadn't told him. Was she in danger? Was she hiding from something, or someone? His stomach twisted as he stepped closer to the door of the warehouse. The building loomed ahead, its broken windows and rusted metal doors giving it a haunted, desolate feel. Jason hesitated for a moment, then pushed the door open, the creak of the hinges breaking the silence of the night. Inside, the air was musty, and the smell of dust and decay filled his nostrils. He could barely make out the outlines of old machinery and piles of forgotten debris scattered around the floor. The place seemed abandoned, yet Jason couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. He took a few cautious steps forward, the sound of his footsteps echoing through the empty space. His heart thudded in his chest as he waited, wondering who would emerge from the shadows. Suddenly, he heard a noise from the far corner of the warehouse. His body tensed as he turned toward the sound, every muscle on alert. A figure stepped out from the darkness, a silhouette that seemed to merge with the shadows. Jason's breath caught in his throat as the figure moved closer, the dim light revealing a woman, one he didn't recognize. She was tall, with dark hair and a serious expression, her eyes locked onto him as she approached. "Jason," she said in a low, steady voice. "I've been waiting for you." Jason didn't know what to say. His mind was still reeling from the shock of seeing this woman, and his instinct told him to be cautious. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "What's going on? Where is Emily?" The woman looked at him for a moment before replying, her tone calm but firm. "I know you have a lot of questions. But you're not going to like the answers." Jason's heart skipped a beat. This wasn't what he had expected. He had hoped for a breakthrough, for some kind of explanation, but instead, he was being met with more mystery. The woman handed him another envelope, identical to the one he had received earlier. Jason took it, his fingers trembling as he opened it. Inside, he found a single piece of paper with one sentence written on it. "She's not coming back, Jason." Jason's blood ran cold as he read the words. His mind struggled to process what he was seeing. What did this mean? Why was Emily not coming back? What had happened to her? The woman's voice broke through his thoughts. The truth is complicated, Jason. It's not just about Emily. It's about everything she's been running from. Jason's chest tightened as he tried to understand. Running from? What do you mean? What's going on? The woman didn't answer immediately. Instead, she turned and started walking away, her footsteps echoing in the silence of the warehouse. Follow me, she said, and I'll show you everything. Jason didn't hesitate. He followed her, knowing that whatever was waiting ahead would change everything. The truth was finally within his reach, but at what cost? Jason followed the woman through the dark corridors of the warehouse, the only sound being their footsteps echoing off the cold, concrete floor. His mind was a blur of questions, his heart racing with a mixture of fear and anticipation. What was she going to show him? What had happened to Emily? Each step seemed to lead him deeper into the unknown, further away from the life he had once known. The woman led him to a small, dimly lit room at the back of the warehouse. She stopped at the door, turning to face him. This is where the answers are, she said, her voice steady but tinged with something that Jason couldn't quite place. But you need to be prepared. What you're about to see will change everything. Jason felt a cold shiver run down his spine. He had no idea what was inside that room, but every instinct told him it was something important. With a deep breath, he nodded. The woman opened the door, and Jason stepped inside. The room was small, its walls lined with old files and documents scattered across the table. It was clear that this place had been used for something secretive. Jason's eyes quickly scanned the room, his gaze falling on a large file sitting in the center of the table. The woman walked over and opened it, revealing a series of photographs and papers. This, she said, is everything you need to know about Emily. Jason moved closer, his pulse quickening. The first photograph was a clear shot of Emily, but not the Emily he knew. In this photo, she was dressed in different clothes, her expression distant and almost fearful. The setting was unfamiliar, but the look on her face was unmistakable. She was hiding something big. The woman spoke again, breaking Jason's thoughts. Emily didn't just disappear, Jason. She was being watched, controlled even. She got involved with the wrong people, and when she tried to leave, they didn't let her. Jason's breath caught in his throat. What do you mean? What people? The woman hesitated for a moment, then continued. There's an underground network of people who will stop at nothing to get what they want. They were using Emily, Jason. She got caught in their web, and when she tried to break free, they came after her. Jason's mind was reeling. He had no idea this was going on. He thought Emily was just trying to move on with her life after the divorce, but now he realized there was so much more to the story. But why didn't she tell me? Jason asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The woman looked at him with sympathy. She didn't want to drag you into it. She thought she could handle it on her own. She didn't want to put you at risk. Jason's hands clenched into fists at his sides. So she's been running from them this whole time? That's why she disappeared. The woman nodded. Yes, and they've been following her. They'd been waiting for her to make a mistake, to slip up. But she never did. Until that night. Jason's heart sank. The argument. It had been the breaking point. What happened that night? He asked, his voice trembling with urgency. The woman paused before answering. She met someone that night. Someone who was part of the network. And they knew she was trying to escape. They couldn't let her go. Jason's mind raced as he processed this new information. Emily had been trying to escape. She had been trying to get away from something far bigger than their broken marriage. The weight of the situation hit him like a ton of bricks. He had no idea what she had been going through, how much danger she had been in. What can I do to help her? Jason asked, his voice desperate. The woman's eyes softened. The first step is understanding the truth. The second step is finding a way to protect her. And the third, well, that's up to you. But you're not alone in this anymore, Jason. We'll help you. Jason stood there in stunned silence, the reality of the situation crashing over him. Emily hadn't disappeared because of their fight. She had disappeared because she was running from something far darker than he had ever imagined. And now, he was in the middle of it. But he wasn't backing down. Not now. Not after everything he had learned. He would do whatever it took to find Emily and bring her back. He wasn't going to let her fight this battle alone. Jason stood there, still reeling from the truth he had just learned. The woman's words echoed in his mind, and he felt the weight of the situation bearing down on him. Emily had been involved with a dangerous underground network, a group that had controlled her life in ways he couldn't begin to understand. She had tried to escape, and now she was in hiding, running from them, and Jason was the one left to pick up the pieces. "What do I do now?" Jason asked, his voice shaking slightly as he looked at the woman. "How do I find her? How do I stop this from happening to her?" The woman regarded him silently for a moment before answering, her expression serious. "You start by trusting the people who are trying to help you. You need to understand that you're not alone in this, Jason. There are people out there who want to help Emily, but you have to act quickly. These people are dangerous, and they won't stop until they have what they want." Jason nodded, his determination hardening. He had always been the type to take matters into his own hands, but this was different. This wasn't just a missing person case anymore. This was a life-or-death situation. Emily's life was at risk, and he couldn't afford to wait any longer. "How do we track them down?" Jason asked. "How do we find Emily before it's too late?" The woman handed him a small device. It was a GPS tracker, something small and discreet that could be hidden easily. "This will help you track down anyone connected to Emily's disappearance. But you have to be careful. These people are watching, and they won't hesitate to protect their own." Jason took the device from her, his hands steady despite the storm of emotions swirling inside him. He didn't know what he was getting into, but he knew one thing for sure: he wasn't going to let Emily down. He would do whatever it took to find her and bring her home safely. The woman continued, "You need to go to the last place she was seen. There's a chance you'll find something there that could give you a lead. But remember, time is running out." Jason didn't waste another second. He knew what he had to do. He left the warehouse and made his way to the address the woman had given him. It wasn't far, just a few miles away, but as he drove, his thoughts kept drifting back to the photos he had seen, to the ring on Emily's finger, to the man she had been with. It all made sense now, the fear in her eyes, the reason she had gone missing. She wasn't just hiding from her past. She was trying to escape something much darker, something far more dangerous. He arrived at the address, an old, abandoned building on the outskirts of town. The place looked deserted, but Jason knew better than to trust appearances. He scanned the area, his senses alert, every nerve in his body on edge. He pulled the GPS tracker from his pocket and activated it. The device gave a faint beep, and the screen lit up, showing the location several blocks away. Jason's heart skipped a beat. This was it. He was close. He followed the signal through the empty streets, his footsteps quick and purposeful. The closer he got, the more the tension in his body grew. Every instinct told him he was about to uncover something that would change everything. The GPS tracker led him to an alleyway behind a building, and Jason stopped in his tracks. There, in the shadows, was a van, one that looked far too familiar. It was the same van he had seen in the photographs. The van that Emily had been in, the one that had been following her. He took a deep breath, his mind racing. This was it. The final piece of the puzzle was right in front of him. Jason stepped forward ready to confront whatever, or whoever, was behind this. But as he approached the van, a sudden noise behind him made him freeze. Someone was following him. Jason froze, his body stiffening at the sound of footsteps behind him. His heart raced, the adrenaline surging through his veins as his mind quickly assessed the situation. He was on the brink of uncovering the truth, but now he had to face the possibility that someone was onto him. He turned slowly, trying to stay calm, his eyes scanning the dark alley for any sign of movement. His hand instinctively went to his pocket where the GPS tracker was, his fingers brushing against it for reassurance. The figure that emerged from the shadows was tall, cloaked in the darkness, making it difficult for Jason to see their face. But there was something about the way the person moved that made Jason uneasy. The figure stopped a few feet away from him, just out of arm's reach. Jason took a step back, his instincts screaming that something wasn't right. "Who are you?" Jason demanded, his voice steady but low, trying not to show any sign of fear. The figure remained silent, their face still obscured. Jason's mind raced, trying to piece together what he had learned so far. Could this be someone connected to Emily's disappearance? Or was it another person involved in the network she had been running from? The tension in the air was palpable, and Jason knew that whatever happened next could change everything. Finally, the figure spoke, their voice muffled but clear. "I could ask you the same question." Jason's blood ran cold. The voice sounded familiar, but he couldn't place it. "What do you want?" Jason asked again, his voice more urgent this time. The figure stepped closer, their movement deliberate and calculated. "I want to know what you're doing here, Jason. You've been digging where you shouldn't. It's time to stop." Jason's mind raced. This wasn't just a random encounter. This person knew him, knew his investigation. He couldn't afford to make any mistakes now. "I'm here to find Emily," Jason said, his words firm. "And I'm not leaving until I do." The figure let out a low chuckle, a sound that sent a shiver down Jason's spine. "You're wasting your time," they said. "Emily made her choice. There's nothing you can do to change it." Jason's heart sank at the words. He had to know more. "What do you mean? What happened to her?" The figure paused, as if considering how much to reveal. "It's complicated, Jason. Emily was never meant to be part of this. She got caught up in something bigger than herself. But now it's too late. She's gone, and there's nothing you can do to bring her back." The words hit Jason like a punch to the gut. He had never imagined that Emily's situation could be this dire. "No," Jason said, shaking his head. "I refuse to believe that. I won't stop until I find her." The figure seemed to regard him for a long moment, as if weighing his resolve. Then, without another word, they turned and began to walk away, fading back into the shadows. Jason stood there, his heart pounding in his chest, his mind in turmoil. The figure's words echoed in his mind, but he refused to accept them. Emily was still out there. He could feel it in his bones. He wasn't going to give up. Not now. Not ever. He waited until the figure was completely gone, then turned his attention back to the van. This wasn't over. It couldn't be. Jason stepped forward, determined to follow the trail, no matter where it led. Every step he took felt like a step closer to the truth. Emily was out there, and he was going to find her. No matter what it took.